And we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. My name is Tony Vicinda. I'm Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP, and we are live from the floor of Exalted Funerals online convention. What does it mean to be live from the floor of an online convention? I've said that question 3 times today. I still don't have an answer other than it means that we are doing a bunch of amazing panels, fabulous actual plays, and other things that are all part of the greater Exalted Funeral publishing and distribution family. A bunch of us are logged in to Gather, which is a virtual play space for the weekend. So if you notice the differences from our normal setup here on stream, that's why there are some of those. Our names are in a little bit of a different place. We're in a little bit different of a setup, but I'm very excited. Everything just moved around my screen and totally jacked things up. I'll figure that out in just 1 second why that happened and move things around again. But actually, we're just going to switch to this view for a second. While I figure that out. We're going to be playing the game, as always, with the creators of the game. We love featuring games played with the creators. They will not be GMing this time. The creators with us, James and Ben. James, why don't you tell people a little bit about who you are, what you do, and tell us a little bit about the Land of Eem.
Sure. I'm James Parks. I'm the co-creator of Land of Eem, as well as the graphic novel series Rickety Stitch and the Gelatinous Goo, and the middle grade series Dungeoneer Adventures, all of which take place in the Land of Eem that was created by Ben and I. We're really excited to be here. Finally get to use this D12 that was given to me from a school visit that Ben and I did, and I'm looking forward to rocking this thing in this adventure.
Awesome. Well, I'm super excited to get a chance to play with you. Also, Ben, tell us a little bit more about yourself also.
Yeah, I am co-creator. I'm also the artist. So we write everything together, and I'm doing a lot of the art. I'm not doing all of the art for the game. However, we're working with other cool artists like Justin Gerard and John Moran, who are doing some of the covers. We've got Sean Kiernan, who's doing a lot of the bestiary art.
We've got an upcoming stretch goal with JP Couvert, who's in the crowd, which is great.
Did y'all just negotiate that live in the crowd right now, or is that already planned?
It's a stretch goal that we hope to reach soon.
Awesome. Well, I'm very excited to hear y'all. Like I said, you can go to landofeem.com, or if there's a link right down below my face in just 1 second when I switch things over, like I'm about to do right now, that will take you right there. That's ttrpg.link /Land of Eem game. Will take you straight to the backer kit page. We like I said, we usually have them the designers GM, but y'all said, hey, 2 of us can't GM, and what if somebody else did? And as soon as that was said, Jarrett from Exalted Funeral was like, Sean F. Smith. And Sean is one of our regular house GMs. So Sean, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, and where they can find you online?
So yeah, hello everybody. As no doubt you've learned by now, my name is Sean Smith. I'm a magician, a games designer, writer, all-round nuisance in general. More typically so, I tend to run quite a lot of horror games, and so I'm particularly excited to flip over to the complete opposite and play something thoroughly wholesome and whimsical, which would be quite fun. This is the first time I've done stuff on Gather as well. And it's quite nice to see the fact that I can actually see an audience, because it's been a strange couple of years for Cabaret, as no doubt people can expect. And so I've not had many chances to physically be on a stage, and streaming is kind of almost scratched that itch, and actually physically seeing digital people in the room is it's wonderful. So yeah, you can find me on the internet in most places. If you search Sean F. Smith, there may be a variety of underscores involved, or maybe not. It depends how quickly I got to the platform, frankly. So yeah, that is me.
All right. I am going to switch us to a slightly different view for just a little bit, because we are having problems as people enter and exit the room in this current view with it constantly shifting things around. So I just fixed it. and then it needed to be fixed again. So if you are in the room, your avatar is visible. If you have your camera on, you will be able to be at least mildly seen until I resolve that problem as well. But we're just going to keep on trucking and keep the game on track. Parrish, it's so good to have you back. Parrish, one of our earliest team members here on Plus One EXP. Haven't been able to have you on stream for the last couple of months. Very excited to see you again. Also somebody who designs amazing RPGs in a very similar space. Why don't you tell us about who you are, what you do, and where people can find your work online?
You got it. My name is Parrish Danforth, and I'm designer of Altera: Age of Exploration. It's a gateway RPG. It's also wholesome and family friendly. And the print and play is totally free. You can get it at explorealtera.com. I'm also on every media as at explorealtera. And I'm hoping to put this like box version with professionally printed cards, standees, and maps and things on some kind of crowdfunding site by the end of the year.
Awesome.
But I am also a day one backer of Land of Eem, so I'm really excited to be playing with the creators today.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks.
We use a couple different tools to make sure everybody's comfortable while we play online, especially here at Exalted Funeral Con, because every game uses safety tools as part of it. We've had this conversation a couple times. People have had a chance to message into Sean if they have any sort of issues. We also had the conversation as a team right beforehand, but now live before your eyes, we're going to talk about lines, veils, the X card, and our open door policy. Lines are things that may happen in the world of the game, but don't happen in the course of our play of it. They are off limits. Veils are things that may happen in play, but are addressed in a certain manner. That might be touched lightly, fade to black, move forward, or only addressed within a certain context. So those are kind of things that are addressed in specific ways. And then the X card is the ability for any of us at any point in time to say, type, or message X to pause the game, identify if there's whatever the issue is. We'll remove that issue from play. If it's just confusion, we'll remove the confusion. If it's an item that doesn't fit, we'll take that out. If it's something that's a problem, we'll add some into our lines and veils to keep us from hitting it again. But you don't have to explain why you don't like it. We also have an open door policy, which means you might see us eat, drink, have to get up, move around, talk to somebody off screen. That's all normal stuff. Because we believe that people are more important than projects, even though we love playing games. We love playing them with people. So we're all people. So we're going to behave like people. It's just how it works. Does anybody have any lines or veils that they want to add besides the channel standard one against sexual violence or sexual coercion? Cool. Sean, you did mention that there is one caution warning you might want to give people for this.
Yeah.
One.
Potential on further thoughts, potentially too. So it functionally, if the adventure that we're about to play was a film, it would probably be like universally rated. But some of the stuff in it might be frightening, depending on who you are and if you've got particular things. So there's a chance we might have some creepy crawlies appear at some point. There's a chance that my cats might walk in front of the screen or behind the screen. And also there's the potential, it's unlikely to happen to any of the main protagonists in the game. But there is a theme of transformation in this as well. And yeah, so like if any of those things make you uncomfortable, be conscious. Although there's not going to be like, it might be perilous, but it shouldn't be frightening. Is kind of what I'm expecting here.
Love that. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm going to hand things over to you to take us into the Land of Eem.
Excellent stuff. So today, or this evening, or this afternoon, depending on where you are or where you're watching, we will be exploring the Curse of the Chickenfoot Witch, which you can play for yourself if you've actually got access to the quick start, of Land of Eem. So hopefully this will be a nice good way of building you into that. And functionally, I'm going to give a little bit of a background introduction. We're then going to hear who our different protagonists are today, and then we'll kick it off. We'll get going. So I'm going to do the storybook voice for the background because I think it's just more fun. And so here we go. As if there wasn't enough trouble and turmoil in the Mucklands realm, rumour has it that an infamous witch is wreaking havoc in the used-to-be forest. Making matters worse, the local folk hero dedicated to ending the witch's reign of terror has gone missing. With nobody left to stop her, Chara the Chickenfoot Witch has petrified the locals with fear. As for the hero, a gnome named L. Dorothy Sandwich, she was last seen at the local watering hole, Wally's Waffles and Wargs. And it's L. Dorothy Sandwich that we are soon to meet. But before we meet her, let us meet our intrepid heroes at this point here. So let's kick off with one of the creators of the world and the story itself ourselves. So let's begin with James, then we'll go Ben, then Parrish, then Tony. So James, who are you today?
I'll be playing S. Warbly Pebbleskip. I'm a gnome. I've come to the Mucklands to primarily banish the agents of evil from this used-to-be forest and try to help it grow again. And I'm excited to do it.
Excellent stuff. Ben, who are you?
I'm Galen Dundougal. I am a Bogrel Knight Errant. I'm like a frog person. I would also like to restore the used-to-be forest to its former glory, and I defended my old town from bandits, took up the sword to protect others.
Excellent stuff.
Apparently, S. Warbley has watched me grow up from afar and is now a mentor to me.
Ooh.
He's a good kid.
Excellent news. And what was just to recap there? I heard Dundougal, but I forgot to write down the first part of your name because it's very warm here in England.
It's Galen.
Galen. Excellent. Yeah. Wonderful. Parrish, who are you?
I'll be playing Enoki Take. I'm a mushroom. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be a bard, which is unusual for mushrooms because where I'm from, music was outlawed, but I secretly practiced every night, and now I love using my my music and poetry to inspire others of the Mucklands to restore the used-to-be forest.
Excellent news. What do you have an instrument of choice, or do you have many?
The fiddle.
Ooh, excellent. And lastly, but by no means finally, Tony, who are you today?
I'm going to be playing Squeegee, the Dungeoneer. I just think there are a lot of amazing sights to behold in the Land of Eem, and I just want to see them all firsthand. So that's why I'm out here with these folks.
Excellent stuff. So we meet all of you as many stories do tend to start out in a tavern, and again, because frankly, professional authors have already written this, and I quite like putting on a speaking voice. I'm going to read it to you. And here is us as we set the scene, as we see Wally's Waffles and Wargs. Actually, do you pronounce that separately, James or Ben, or is like I'm a sucker for diphthongs, so sometimes I double up letters and sounds. Is it meant to be one noise or two?
Wargs is how we say it generally.
Yeah, wargs, excellent. The other was an old awkward underground English pronunciation that is non-canon. You should know. Stepping into Wally's Waffles and Wargs is an odd experience, though it promises good old-fashioned fun, family fun. The tavern looks more like a den of rascals, ruffians, and scallywags. But the waffles are great. Except our heroes are not here for waffles. They're here to find L. Dorothy Sandwich, having gotten word that the gnome folk hero is missing. And I mean, looking around the room, the only gnome you can see in here is S. Warbly Pebbleskip. Otherwise, we've got there's a stoat over in one part of the room. We've got quite a scruffy looking human who is Wally Dunkwiffle himself. He's currently wearing a very large pirate hat, which has the word pirate written on it, but the R is confusingly the wrong way around. There's quite a rotund person over in one corner who is pretty much perfectly perched between the actual bar itself and nearby to where the toilets are, sort of like equally like skipping between the two of them. We have a gruff goblin with like quite a bad back, clearly quite bad eyes, probably in the need of some sort of glasses, and an incredible, wonderful beard. Clearly he himself at this point is a proponent of the beard balms available through +1 EXP. So, in fact, there's a little bit of product placement that we see down in the corner as it's like conveniently turned to the camera. There's a silver-haired lady in here who looks like deeply rascalous, and also quite a initially almost mistake him for part of the furniture, or at least part of the room. There's an enormous troll with like huge tusks like the size of trumpets, just kind of sat there. A very, very like sickly sweet smell is in the whole of the air, that sort of like mix of like waffle syrup and like very, very like frothy beers, and there's a nice like sparkling drink that's sort of like named after some fairies or something. That's sort of like lemon and lime flavour. And this is the room in which we're in. Who amongst the people there takes your fancy? What is it that you're doing?
Well, I mean, Squeegee, and in case anybody was wondering, I know you all have a mental picture of Squeegee right now, and you're right. Squeegee is a gelatinous goo. I know that's what everybody was thinking just based on the name, and I just want to confirm. I'm just gonna just slurp over to the nearest person to the door, and I'm gonna stick a piece of myself in their glass of what, if it's fairy inspired, can only be known as Fago drink, and I'm just gonna start slurping that up. Get that delicious lemon lime, and I mean, I don't even address them. I just start absorbing it into my porous form.
Excellent stuff.
So you can decide.
The person nearest the door is the well-bearded goblin, who kind of like squints up at you as you look at that, and it's like, that's my drink there. I've been waiting to drink my Fago all day.
Pardon my friend there. He's lacking in the manners.
Well, I don't mind having another one though. Don't think I've seen you lot around here before. What brings you here to Wally's? You don't seem like the normal waffle types.
Indeed, we're looking for a sandwich.
Well, that's to be honest, I ain't seen her myself. I heard she's around here somewhere though. But what are you looking for this sandwich for? Are you here to kind of like help her out? Is she going off after that chicken foot witch?
That's what we've heard.
Offer your services. Oh, got to be careful of that. I've seen her, right, as my own eyes. Like you might think, looking here, that I can't see very well, but I can see better than you can in the night or the day. It's just it's very bright in here. That's it. So a few of us went down to the crack to go and jump a claim. Someone put some stuff up there, didn't protect it properly, and well, it's important to go and do a bit of mining, isn't it? And well, I thought I saw this harpy, if I'm honest, kind of like hopping about there, huge, great, like turkey-like feet. And yeah, she gave old Gutter Winsome the absolute stink eye. He's had bad luck ever since that. I'll stay away from her if that was you.
And I'm just over the counter looking for some chicken and waffles now.
I'll hand him a new drink. Oh, here you go.
Thanks for that. I hope to see you again soon. Because if not, well, You don't want to fall foul of them curses. That's what I was going to say.
Can I ask one question?
Yeah.
How large is this witch?
Well, kind of fairly standard boggart size. So on yourself,
Harpies are huge.
yeah. But I don't think she's actually. What's the thing? I thought she was a lot closer than she was. She was, kind of a little bit taller than me, maybe. And at this point here, Carl is like, if you imagine like a very tall toddler, Carl's kind of about that size. He's almost like up on this little bar stool he's got. He looks significantly larger, but if he kind of like jumps down to pick up his cup, he's like quite a big toddler. And he's like, yeah, just a bit taller than I am, but I reckon it's them bird legs that kind of give her the height. You'll hear her coming though. So that scritch, scratch, scritch, all the noises.
No offense, but I don't think I trust your eyesight, actually.
Well, why not?
Because none of what you're saying makes sense. A harpy, but barely taller than you.
How big is a harpy?
Well, Harpy's almost as big as him over there. Rogram over in the corner, and then you're looking over there, and that's the troll. That's a huge lad. But no, I thought she was closer than she was. You see, kind of looked the same. Yeah.
Warbly, maybe we should rethink this whole thing.
I tend to agree, but we've got to find Miss Sandwich.
At this point, the silver-haired lady wanders over to you. She's got almost like perfect porcelain skin. Her nose is like very, very small and quite high, but her eyes are implausibly large. And she does wander over, and it's like, well, hello there. I'm Tabitha. I couldn't help but hear. I'm a bona fide rascal, you see. And I couldn't help but overhear the fact that you might be looking for L. Dorothy Sandwich.
We are.
Have you know, she's here in this room. But of course, if your eyes only expect one thing and you're looking for one particular kind of person, we might not see it.
I have a sandwich halfway to my mouth, and I look down at it with increasing horror, as if I was about to potentially eat this woman.
Oh no!
And Tabitha kind of like leans up against the table, and she's wearing like enormously wide pants, the kind of things that are like both on the thigh are entirely like ballooning out, and again and like the lower leg as well. And she's got both very like high heels and like long pointy shoes on. Contrasted with that, like her top is just really very basic. It's almost just like a roll neck jumper. And she kind of like leans up against the table and points over with her little finger in such a way that you can see because of where you're all stood, but anybody from any other angle couldn't tell where she's pointing. And just up beyond the bar there's a stoat that you saw as you came into the room. So like long, thin, muscled.
Is this a humanoid stoat or like
no, just
weasel
like the
size?
animal, really. Yeah,
Right.
just your fairly standard weasel size thing. But what you do notice when it's kind of there is that the stoat also does have like a very small glass, again of the Fago, that's kind of sparkling a lot here at this point. And Tabitha's like, and of course, I mean, you may have discounted Carl's thoughts here, but I myself have also heard of Kara. They say she accidentally cursed herself while making a beauty potion. She was never the same after that. It turned sour on the inside, and now she just curses everybody else for laughs. And frankly, I think that's what's happened to L. Dorothy Sandwich. But you didn't hear that from me. Good day. And she wanders off, kind of like, and like on the table has left a it's a tiny like a rose petal, which has just got like the letter T kind of embossed on it, with a little like squirrely thing at the other side. It tastes very, very like crunchy.
I was
and
just sticking
almost,
it in my
like,
pocket.
savoury.
That was just me sticking it in my pocket. I didn't eat that.
Oh, good. Is there? So there's a couple of other people in the bar. Did you want to talk to anybody else before wandering over and speaking with the stoat?
Sure. Let's talk to the troll.
So the troll is somehow seems to get even larger as you like move towards him. He's got like huge amounts of like shaggy yellow hair. It's like his tusks kind of like jut out at the bottom of his jaw, and very much of this sort of like significant vibe of just. I don't know, they're not quite so much like aggressive, more as just like kind of like an adornation, in the same way that like a deer's antlers themselves quite often will look beautiful. The tusks here just look quite like pleasant and definitely like well kept. It looks like he probably needs to like comb his hair, but he certainly spends a lot of upkeep making the tusks look really nice. And he's sat there. As you can see, kind of like legs crossed beneath him underneath his chair, and he's eating a very big pile of waffles. Although most of the people in this place have kind of got like some form of syrup. He's got this bright red jam that he's sort of like put between every single one, and he's like wanders over and is like, "Oh, hello."
Excuse me, sir. But we are seeking a hero, and you are the largest and most fearsome thing I've ever seen. Could you perhaps be that hero?
It's possible. I'm not much of the heroic sort. I'm more of a traveler, you see. Yeah, I spend my time wandering around. And
where have you traveled from today?
Oh, today I've just come from over the road, but yesterday and the day before that I've headed down from the Drippy Downs, and well, it's been very lovely, all in all. I thought I'd wander down here and catch up with my friend. You know there's the gnome, the folk hero here. She's done all sorts of things.
You
recognize,
know,
but
you know the Great Sandwich.
Yes, I do. I know El Dorothy Sandwich very well. In fact, last summer I had a serious leech infestation under my bridge, and she helped me right out. They don't call her Leechbane Dorothy Sandwich for nothing now, do they?
Of course not. Would you be so kind as to introduce us, and also let me know what kind of jam that is, because I've never been to this establishment before, and I would really love a recommendation on what's good.
Oh, you need to order off menu if you want to do that. They don't normally have it in. This one they call Haruspex jam. Not really sure why. It's kind of got like quite an earthy taste to it, but I've never found anything like it anywhere else. It's wonderful.
It looks delicious.
Yes, it's cracking. But no, I've been hanging out here because I'm under the impression that El Dorothy is quite the regular here. But well, maybe she's off questing. You know how it is, heroics all of the time.
Yeah, I was hoping to meet her here today too, but I don't even know what she looks like.
Oh, she's quite lovely. She's about yay high. He almost like lifts his hand just above his knee. She tends to wear the most remarkable purple hat. Incredible little thing. Yes, normally is like quite snappily dressed. if I'm honest, I'm not entirely sure they're her own eyebrows, but she tends to have some remarkably powerful eyebrows, and you can normally spot her from miles away just by that.
As most heroes do.
Of course, it is the true mark of heroism.
Perhaps I'll get an order of those waffles, and I can wait here with you for them. Wait here with you for her.
Oh yes. Well, I mean, if she's not here today, then honestly, I don't really know what's going on. I need to leave in a few days, so I do hope we get to catch up. She's excellent at playing cards, you know. We used to play such wonderful games of cards. We played a game called Weir. It's one where you've got to bet a certain amount of tricks you think you're going to win, and if you get too many or too few, fool you. She's very, very good.
I would much look forward to learning it. But for now, I'm going to look forward to those waffles. I'll be right back.
Excellent.
As Enoki excitedly makes his way towards the counter.
Squeegee has just kind of spread out loosely across a large portion of the counter, kind of hoping that a plate accidentally gets set on top.
I mean,
as a longtime companion of Squeegee, I am not bothered by this in the slightest.
What is everybody's normal reaction to that? Like, in the sense of, is this kind of non-plus the vast majority of people? Obviously, everybody in your group understands and expects this sort of behavior from Squeegee, but like, do most people kind of like cock an eyebrow and feel like quite like confused? What's the general vibe we've got here?
Yeah, I would imagine the patrons are not used to a gelatinous goo sprawling out on the bar. But
taking sausages from plates.
Yes, it's certainly kind of adds a little bit of additional chaos and awkwardness here. I want to throw some randomness.
Pardon him. We'll pay for more drinks for you. Certainly. Right, Werbly, you got cash.
Oh, yeah. Sure, I've got something somewhere. Maybe I left it in my other pants, and I'll.
Wally, put it on our tab.
I can do just that. Yeah, and you get get your order in, and manage to balance out at least enough of the additional fears and so on within the room. And shortly after that, after finishing off her own glass of this, and again, it's almost like a tiny little sherry glasses worth of this tiny bright bubbling liquid. And this stoat wanders along the bar top, up to you, and it's like, I hear you're looking for me.
Sure.
We're always
now hold on a minute.
We're always looking for a friend. Would you like a bite of waffle?
Yeah, okay.
Now you said looking for you. Who are you?
I'm El Dorothy Sandwich, a gnome. At least I was a gnome. But no, Kara cursed me. She changed me into a stoat. And she stole my wand of decursification. So now I'm stuck this way. Can't even hold a sword. Oh.
Tremendously unfortunate.
Well,
can you hold a fork?
It's a small fork, like a pudding fork, yeah.
I reach down behind the counter and fish out a pudding fork, and
her hands are remarkably dexterous for being so small. She kind of almost holds it in a weird over top grip, kind of cuts like this, and like fished out a small knife from somewhere and kind of like cut this thing up. And like with a mouthful of waffle. And again, so did Inoki order it with the jam?
The waffles?
Yeah, I'd assume so.
I would assume.
And so yeah, so kind of
dab
like
at it with my pinky and taste some.
it's like it's really very earthy. It's like it's almost like a tomato, but more somehow kind of like really vivid tomatoey sort of taste. It's like initially from looking at it, you'd imagine it would be like very, very sweet, and actually it lends the whole dish a really quite a nice, pleasant sort of flavor. But it is strange. It's a very strange sort of feeling. And whilst like Dorothy's eating kind of got a mouthful of this and like her cheeks all swollen up, she almost looks like a hamster. Like, well, if you really want to help, I can tell you where she is, and you can go and get it back. You get me back the wand, I can turn back to normal. She's she's jealous and cruel, but I imagine there's some good in her somewhere, probably deep down. It's kind of worth managing that.
What's she jealous of?
I think she wants to be a dancer. I think she always disliked just how delicate I am on my feet. Never fallen over, not in any of my adventuring days. I think she got embarrassed, so she transformed me into this. I mean, I like the shape; it's quite fun, but it's a bit bored now. I'd rather get back to my normal work, if I'm honest. But that's a word of warning I would give you. Not everything in her lair are the way that they seem. She may have a heart of crusted pain on the outside, but I think that's a trick too. I'd bet my third foot on it, I would. And she like lifts up one of her back feet, which you can see. At some point somebody has like painstakingly applied like nail polish to the lower nails, but only on that foot.
You see squeegee like up off the countertop. That was supposed to be much more pronounced, like, but I couldn't quite get there. Up off the countertop, all the jelly and syrup and everything that was on the countertop now all gone. It's like the cleanest this countertop has been in a while. And like brings himself up to like full gelatinous goo height.
Now, how tall is this witch anyway? I've got conflicting reports.
Well, she's about normally. She's actually just a bit shorter than me with my hat on. Of course, now she's probably 3 or 4 times larger than me. And like Dorothy in stoat mode is probably about a foot long. He's like, yeah, she's probably about 3 or 4 feet tall, I'd say. But those legs of hers make her seem taller.
Could you lead us to her?
I could give you the directions. It'd be slightly easier. I'm very sprightly, but I can't travel very long distances anymore with this body.
Oh, sure, of course, yes, I understand that.
But if you head from here, it's a couple of days away. Maybe 3, depending on how quick you want to travel. But functionally, if you go out of here, sort of like turn left at the big tree, then carry on till you get to the point where there used to be a bridge. You see that bit there, cross under the river, and then follow along the edge of the forest, and eventually you'll find this big crack where there's a bit of mining going on there. And yeah, if you head to that crack, and then you can head on down, and you'll see her lair. Quite straightforward.
And when you say the river and the forest, you mean the used to be river and the used to be forest, correct?
Yeah. I mean, you'll have to imagine the trees. They aren't there anymore. but it still feels like a forest. I mean, even if things change, they contain a real core of what they meant to be. It was quite a useful thing to know.
Wisely said.
Mm. And on that note, where we have a limited amount of time in today's one shot, whereas if you yourselves are playing this at home, you can enjoy the full travel rules. But I think in order for us to get to a narrative conclusion within a few hours, we're going to smash cut straight to the actual dungeon entrance. But
that was a tough journey.
I do want to hear like one bit from each person in terms of like a montage moment, almost about something awkward that you had to get past as part of the route. Let's begin. Let's begin with Inoki, and then we go to Squeegee, and then we'll jump to the other two.
Inoki traveled cheerfully, regaling his companions, their companions, regaling their companions with many a tale, including one that they just composed. The hero sandwich never gloated, though she fought off the leeches till each leech was smoted. You'll see in her eyes she's old and she's wise, even though by now she's been stoated.
Fine story. Wonderful song.
What do we get from Squeegee's perspective?
From Squeegee's perspective, there's a night where we all make camp. We all lay down. And what I didn't notice, you know how like as for normal flesh people, sleeping on a lump is bad. Well, the problem is I fell asleep on a crevice, and so the next morning I woke up just totally down inside it. Didn't know where I was, couldn't move. Took a little while for me to figure out what was going on. And we started out definitely at least an hour and a half late that morning, as it took me a while to kind of work my way out of the crevasse.
Excellent stuff. Next up, what about Galen? What do we see from their perspective?
Well, Galen rides a boggle tortoise, which is a big mount, and but traveling with people like Squeegee, for instance, it's a little uncomfortable. He insists on riding the tortoise, and it gets all slippery and disgusting. And so what ended up happening was Galen was just walking while all three of them were on his tortoise. And so now his foot is just full of blisters. He's not used to walking long distances.
Excellent stuff. And finally, what about S. Warbly Pebbleskip?
It was a relatively uneventful journey for Warbley, who spent his time chatting with butterflies along the road until the same night Squeegee got trapped in the crevice. He was dreaming about how the used to be forest will one day be a forest again, when he woke up to a giant toad trying to eat one of his shoes. And the toad successfully swallowed the shoes, and it's not that big a deal for Warbley. He'll be fine without one shoe, but they were a birthday present, so he's a little perturbed.
Sad times. So yeah, the lair itself is like, and you can find it thanks to L. Dorothy Sandwich's descriptions within a large fissure in the earth that's known widely as the crack, for the fact it appears to be a crack in the earth. Within there is there's a long and winding staircase that has been genuinely like quite poorly made within the earth. It sort of like leads down towards like, you can almost smell it first, in the fact that it just like, it smells of both of like the sea, but also like very, very earthy at the same point. And it isn't down until you sort of like get to the bottom of this thing, where you see just like quite a vast, like it's very, very muddy. It's that kind of like gray green, like edge of brown sort of like mud at this point here. and it smells bad. It smells like socks that have been left in a bag for too long. It smells like somebody has sort of like spilled pasta water on the tablecloth and then left it in the back of the kitchen for a while. And within this, there's sort of like bubbling and burping constantly going around. You can see that a load of the stones sort of like heading through are clearly like slick with this mud. You can see about 3 other like routes on from here. There's like a warm, colourful glow of some lights that are sort of coming from a cave over to your left. There's another cave entrance sort of like directly across from the actual like big burping bog. Although that second cave entrance is completely dark. And then there's a path off to the right that sort of like leads away directly into mist. But it seems to be like quite a close mist, the sort of thing that you'd almost see in the mornings before the sun has kind of like completely been up there enough to burn it away. And we're seeing that at the foot of the burping bog, with all of our protagonists kind of like silhouetted against this scene. And I think that's a cracking time for us to take a brief break, so I can get more fluids.
Excellent. We're going to take just a short little break here. We are going to be live still in the convention center, but we are going to drop off screen for just a second so that we can all move around, do the things. While we're doing that, if you have not yet, head on over to ttrpg.link / Land of Eem game, or just head to landofeem.com to find out more about this amazing project. And we'll be back in just one moment. I've got a And we are live again from the con floor here at EFCon 22 playing Land of Eem, which is live right now over on BackerKit's new BackerKit funding platform. You can go to landofeem.com, that's EEM, to check out more, or head straight to the BackerKit project at ttrpg.link /Land of Eem game. It'll take you right over there. And I'm going to hand things back over to Sean F. Smith to take us into the danger.
So we're on the edge, so down a crack, or down a staircase in the crack, a great fissure in the earth. We've come across a vast, I say vast, it's not necessarily very like deep, but it's quite wide as it kind of like curves around here, full of like horrible bubbling muck. This large bog, which sets the outskirts of the lair of the Chickenfoot Witch, and our heroes are stood here against it, knowing that at some place within this lair is the Chickenfoot Witch herself, Kara, who until relatively recently had been beset by the folk hero L. Dorothy Sandwich, who unfortunately turned into a stoat, and in stoat form dropped her wand of decursification. So you're primarily here to defuse the situation, deal with the witch herself, and get that wand back. And what we can see here is just this like vast, like burping set of mud. Over on one side, just kind of the other part of it, there's a cave entrance which is quite like brightly glowing with all manner of different colours. There's another cave entrance that's completely dark, and there's a wide pathway that sort of like leads across much more solid ground, but leads directly down into some mist. And actually standing around here and just even taking in a moment to kind of like to see the environment and to see that rushing across any of this part here is going to be relatively slippery and quite awkward. But Galen also notices that within this bog, there are a couple of like quite large toads. They're known as Merga Toads, and they are, well, not innately dangerous, but they will be quite mean if you get close. They've got like very, very strange poisons. They're like big fat toads that really like dark, muddy places. And what you have all heard about this is that they are deeply territorial. But there's only two of them, so it shouldn't necessarily be too awkward to sort of like manage things around. But what is it that you will do?
Well, we should decide which way we want to go.
Let me ask you something. Is it true that all heroes need eyebrows? Because I don't got them.
It isn't true.
That's a relief.
I've been deceived.
I'm sorry. It isn't true.
With that, I think Galen gets a burst of confidence.
Well,
Just
the
leaps into the water.
What? Warpley is completely surprised by this reaction.
Excellent stuff. What's your intention with leaping into the water? Are you trying to attract the attention of the toads? Are you trying to frighten them with a display of aggression? What's the win state here?
Just trying to get to the other side.
Okay, so almost like
And if that attracts them and opens up an opportunity for others to jump on in.
So I'd say this is probably going to be quite a if you're going through quite swiftly and just jumping in and then sort of moving through. I'm going to say this would call for a nimbleness check. So where this is the first roll that we have made at the stream here, the way in which Land of Eem works is anybody who is acting will roll a d12. The sadly rarely used but genuinely wonderful of dice. That result then gets modified by whatever your skill values are, up or down, and then there are 5 complete outcomes depending on how effective that you might be. So at the very, very top, if you're rolling a 12, you get just a complete success. On the complete opposite side, if you get a 1 or a 2, you get a complete failure. And things kind of crank up in the middle of these things. What I really like about running games like this in general is that it's very fluid, and it also tends to give a lot of opportunity for like group engagement, and especially if you're playing a game with young kids, the fact that the dice roll like this will every single time, you can always ask the questions like, okay, well, what else happens? And the dice kind of runs things in this way around. Yes, I'm really excited for this bit. But in this case, Ben, can you roll us D12 and then add your nimbleness score?
All right. Rolled a 10, -1. It's a 9.
Mm-hmm.
Success. So
it is successful. It works. It works as well as you need. What's that look like? It's quite a controlled thing. You don't get it so that it is overwhelmingly good or bad. But functionally, this is a true heroic appearance here, where you set out to do something, you do it well. What's that look like for Galen?
Well, if you're rating the dive, it would probably be a 9 out of 10. And there's not a lot of splash, and you just see his what's normally kind of a rotund, spindly form, with spindly legs. It looks really graceful in the water.
I'm just picturing a frog just like this.
Excellent stuff. So Galen's managed to make it all of the way across in this horrible muck. And although the kind of once you stand up on the opposite side of it, just whole chunks of just gross soil just kind of drop off and splash on the ground. But you're relatively close to the two cave entrances. One of them, the dark one, there's a kind of a genuine chill that sort of seems to be issuing forward from it. It initially kind of feels like it's a breeze, but the fact that it's almost coming continually, it's if you're stood next to an open refrigerator or something. It's that level of strangeness, because the bog itself is quite it feels very humid, whereas this chill feels really quite cold and dry. There's also just at the point next to that, the other cave entrance where it's like very, very bright, and there's all of these like kaleidoscopic colors that are sort of like flying out from here. You can also hear like there's a very low level chuckle. Like it sounds like somebody in there is like quite amused at themselves, and you just hear this like. It doesn't feel. It feels mischievous rather than mean, and that's the first time I've described a laugh in a few weeks actually. But yeah, that's the kind of vibe that we've got there. What's everybody else doing back at the very base of the staircase that's kind of like led you down to the burping bog?
I am very mistrustful of a bog. Like, I don't know where I end and the bog begins sometimes is the problem. And so I'm being very careful.
That's great. I'm going to go to the edge where Galen jumped off, and I'm going to use my inherent gnome ability of critter speak and just yell out to the toads, like, excuse me, I'd like to get across the bog. Would it be possible for you to help me and my companions get through the bog without further delay?
Kind of like, because for the most part, they've kind of only really got eyes above the surface, although they're kind of like nostrils quite high up, sort of thing. And they like raise up a little bit higher. What? Friends?
Yes, I'd like to be friends.
Oh. Do you know where there's any flies? Maybe.
Where are there any flies? Not
I haven't had a
exactly.
fly in, maybe even as long as 5 minutes. You see that there are like clouds of flies. They're just, it's very obvious where the toads are, and the flies are just kind of like away at the edges of the pool.
I'm quite quick. I'm sure I could catch one.
Your friend
Brilliant
talks
idea.
strangely. How come I can hear you like you're another one of us toads, but your friend doesn't make sounds that make sense?
I just haven't taught them the language yet. But they're actually quick enough to catch the flies for you.
Oh.
If you'd be
That'd be
willing to
nice.
give it a go.
Yeah, if you get us 3 flies between us, yeah, we'll let you across.
Okay,
could I
explain that to the team?
let me think what's probably going to be optimal here? I imagine.
Oh, I have a lasso.
I love that visual.
If it were a lot, actually, to be fair, I suppose you could probably still like be quite lucky in capturing some of these flies. I imagine the optimal thing for this is probably going to be I imagine either athletics or nimbleness, depending on the sort of like tactic for which you kind of like go around and capture these things. So if Inoki can give us an athletics or a nimbleness check.
Sure. And I'm all for trying to lasso down the biggest one I can find.
Like it's about the sort of like size of just like you, the audience member, or other players, like the size of like the smallest like knuckle at the end of your finger.
They're
so they're big fat flies. Yeah.
Okay, well, I have a die, and I haven't done this before, so I have a knack for nimbleness, so I'll get a +1 on it.
And great eyebrows.
Do mushrooms have eyebrows? I guess that's possible.
I think they're called gills, but they definitely look like eyebrows. Yeah.
Mycelium.
Like if you think about it, the entire cap of a mushroom is kind of an eyebrow.
Just one.
Just one big continuous brow.
One big eyebrow
above the eyes.
Okay.
Gigantic.
I'm here for it. Okay, so I'm gonna roll a d12. even with the +1, I got a 2.
Gosh. What does happen is you do manage to sort of like lasso one of the flies.
Because of course I did.
Probably what you weren't expecting was just how how much of a group they work together in. Secondly, just how strong these flies are.
I knew it.
So at the point where you kind of you throw the lasso, catches around a couple of these flies, and then the rest of them just all immediately kind of glom on top, and so the whole of them are just kind of right on top of this lasso, and then it's just stood there, and then just pulls you straight forwards. The lasso kind of comes out of your hand, and you can still see him flying up forwards, but then Inoki kind of lands just splats face down in the lands splat face down in the actual mud here itself. I'm going to say that's going to cause you a bit of dread. Specifically 2 points of dread, so that will reduce your courage by 2.
Sean, would you mind talking to our audience a little bit about what dread is and how it works in the game?
Indeed. So in lots of different role-playing games, whenever you've got issues of violence or equivalent coming up, then you will often have health and damage and things of that sort. Mechanically, courage and dread, oppositely round. The damage is the dread, the courage is the health. Behaves in the same sort of way. So you will have a certain amount as controlled by the class that you're playing, influenced slightly by your stats as well. And functionally, this represents just how much you're in a perfectly solid, stable position. The fact that they're worded in such a way, again, is something that I think is really interesting, in that it means that as you're playing, say if you're playing with 12-year-old boys or something who quite like the idea of someone getting boffed in the nose and picking up huge black eyes and things, it can be that way around. Whereas if you're playing with somebody who is much more averse to just violence, then it can literally just be fear. You've fallen over, it's a bit awkward, and it's more the you've not been physically hurt by it, but it's the worry that comes in that situation that sort of reduces the sort of strength and control you have here. So at a very basic level, it's just it's a renaming, but by having that renaming, it then suddenly gives you as a table, wherever you're playing it, just so many more capabilities of managing it that way around. And it isn't just a case of one of them thinking it's we're going to use this different word so it sounds different. It's genuinely a different lever of play, which I think is really quite exciting.
Cool.
So yeah, what's it look like when Inoki suffers this 2 dread?
His gills get all clogged with mud, and it makes it harder to breathe, and it just reduces his capacity for adventure.
It's definitely the
until he can get a good bath.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's quite a good plan. The toads are kind of watching it and we're didn't tell you why we hadn't had those flies before, did we?
No,
it was quite funny though. It's been a while since we've had a laugh, isn't it, Toad? He goes, yes, Toad. It's been quite a while since we've had a laugh. So I think we'll let you pass. It was quite funny. If you do find any flies, though, that would be nice. But no worries. Yeah, we'll go back and soak now. So all this talking's kind of dried out my mouth. And it just seeps back below the edge of the kind of the boggy water again now. One of the things. Yeah, go for it.
Can the turtle float through the bog so that perhaps Squeegee could ride on top of it without getting too diluted?
I certainly think so. I think that
you'd have to ask him.
Oh, that's no good because I don't speak turtle.
I'm gonna go up to the turtle.
Well said.
And the turtle kind of like looks at Squeegee and and nods wholeheartedly. Turns out he's got like a sweet in his mouth, otherwise he'd speak. But it's rude to speak with your mouth full, so he doesn't. And kind of like turtles his way down onto the somehow almost like seems like he can stand on top of the mud, sort of like flattened out the pads of his feet as such, and is then able to like ferry everybody from this edge of the like the mucky, muddy, watery nonsense across up to the other side. And like the four of you were reunited once more. As these have been crossing, what's Galen been doing?
Maybe peering into the misty area without really entering it.
One of the things you can spot, like beyond there, is it mostly seems to be that the mist is sort of like issuing up from like another crack, like another crevice in the ground, through which you're pretty certain. I mean, to be able to see much more certainly, you'd need to head a lot closer. But what you can see, sort of like with all the mist issuing up, is that there's a very rickety looking bridge that's crossing over this over this chasm, which where all the mist is coming from. The noises that you did hear in the kaleidoscopic cavern, they have entirely sort of quietened down. The sort of like pleasant little giggling has stopped. There's a little bit of a noise coming from where like the cold wind is coming out of, and it almost like it sounds like a very low, quite far away howling, a sort of like ooh noise.
What do you say, Squeegee? Which way should we go? You're the Dungeoneer. Huh.
So
Can't argue with that.
I'm gonna use my once per session ability to once per session I can reconnoiter. I'm going to make up a factor rumor about a point of interest or group that's located here.
Excellent.
I am like, oh, we can't go that way. There's bumblebee people over there, is what I say. But I don't know if y'all make it. I don't know if y'all can understand it at all.
When you say that way, which way is that way?
That way. Over there. It's very, like, it's just kind of a lean to the left, and it's very unclear which way it is.
Excellent news. So yeah, where do you all choose to go? What's your next step?
Bumblebee people sounds terrible.
May I sing a song first?
I stop everything I'm doing, sit on a rock, and listen really intently.
It's how a gelatinous cube goo rolls their eyes, you don't know, but I manage it.
With a quick whip out of my fiddle, I sing, "Of all the friends I ever knew, my favorite is a pile of goo. With us in the bog is Galen the frog and Warley the gnome with one shoe."
A fine song.
That's right.
You're pretty
Oh,
good.
lovely.
What were our options again?
So we have
Dark or light?
shiny cave, dark cave, or misty bridge.
Oh, Misty Bridge has the bee people, so I'm like Dark Cave for sure.
They say the darker the cave, the brighter the future.
Dark cave it is.
Indeed.
As you like this would be the point in the like, we're not going to pause now for a break, but this would be the point where if it were a cartoon, as you're sort of like creepily going into this dark cage, and then it would almost like show like a look of shock upon the heroes' faces before cutting to a commercial break. And then upon the return of that, we then like zoom back about 2 or 3 seconds in time and see people like heading back into this cave. What you can see in this space, and a lot of it is just from like light that's kind of like coming from behind you as you sort of headed through. There is another like couple of exits that you can sort of see from this room. It's quite a peculiarly square cave, despite the fact it's obviously is a natural cave. There's like stalagmites and stalactites in the room. It's really very cold. It's like the whole place has sort of like been chilled down. What you can hear now that you're sort of in here as well is just that like that low sort of like howling noise again. They're like, ooh. Although it kind of seems like tinged with an edge of sadness, almost like that kind of continues. And as you're kind of like your sensory organs, because I was going to say, as your eyes, but only 2 of you have probably got eyes in the way in which I'm considering it. But as your sensory organs accustomed to the dark, you can also see that there's like a skeleton with no head, who's just kind of got this like quite a large sword and is just like walking around every now and then, kind of like tripping over some of the stalagmites and then just like turning around and then like lurching forwards in terms of other places here. Yeah, what's your what are you doing?
Galen will.
I've got
draw
my
his
I've got
sword.
my pickaxe out and my lantern shining forth.
Excellent. So Galen's drawn his sword, Squeegee's pickaxe in hand, lantern in other hand. What about Inoki? What about Warbler?
I'll play a little bit of spooky cave music to give it the right ambiance.
I have no weapon of any kind, so I'll just hold my fishing pole in front of me.
Excellent stuff. So yeah, so as you're seeing this, you do also spot, partially because of the flickering light from Squeegee's lantern just sort of like interplays with actually like how some of the shades in the room will behave. And you see that there's a part where like the shadow almost seems to be like not moving in motion with the light, but moving in motion with the song. And then shortly after that, this ghostly figure, which mostly looks like essentially a quite a small woman with like very, very like narrow shoulders, like quite a long neck, and like very, very long thin legs. She's kind of like dancing around in this point here, and you see that she was the one who was crying, and suddenly, like, I mean, you can see the tears running down her face, almost making it look like whatever the production company used to kind of like make this appear like a ghost is clearly running from the tears. And she stands there and is like, I have not heard such a beautiful song. Gosh, in many years. I'm very glad I could be here to see this. Thank you. Thank you, Bard. Thank you, Dungeoneer, for lighting this up and reminding me what the stage lights look like. Oh.
Ma'am, did this skeleton make you sad?
No. Well, in some ways, we may have married one day. He's back when we both had bodies and sense. His name was Sir Galladay. He wished to marry me, and I probably would have said yes. He came here seeking revenge when I had been killed. Killed, you see, for my tutu. It's gone now. I wish I could have it back.
Would you mind telling the skeleton to quit waving that sword around? I'm inclined to break him in half.
I mean, he'll. If you give him a wild birth, then he won't come close. I'm sure. I'm afraid he doesn't have any ears left. Something quite strange happened. He lost his skull when he turned up, and he can't really hear now. All of his ear bones are gone. But if you watch carefully, you can see the sort of pattern he goes. He tends to spend a bit much time going up nearer to the lake over there. And then she points to the passageway out that sort of like heads out to the left of this room. If you're here looking for my tutu, you probably want to go straight on. Kiara's room is through that way. No.
I'll like hug the wall away from the skeleton and try to make way towards where she points towards the witch's direction.
Okay, I'll stick with Warbly.
Nice. And yeah, at this point, the ghost of Moira sits down on the floor and like puts her head like through her hands. She's kind of like still not quite gotten used to the fact that there's like no feedback at any point, and she's kind of like just sat there like this crying, and like intermittently kind of like doing the ghost woo and then the tears as you all sort of like line up carefully along the wall and creep your way past the there is a point where the skeleton kind of like almost like is walking straight towards you through luck and then just like trips over its own feet, kind of like crumbles to the floor, gets up again, picks up the sword, holding it the wrong way around, and just like turns back and just walks off in the other direction. And as you kind of like come back through into the area, into the what you can see is just like there's a large house, and it appears as if it's actually been made. Like each of its bricks are different colors. Although there's probably like 70 or 80 different colors in total, but they're all kind of the same sort of like weird plasticky feel. If we had managed to get the license from Lego, these would be Lego bricks. If not, they would just be non-denominational stacking bricks. This kind of thing. What you can smell as you're sort of like heading through this way, you can see the other end of this like rope bridge crossing across, where actually some of the ropes themselves are being like tended to by like bright blue bee people, sort of like very, very fuzzy, like bright blue things just kind of like coming on and like tightening up the ropes. And from within the house that you see opposite here, there is just a like a strong, like it's similar-ish almost to the sort of like the smell of the waffles, but it's a little bit like it's a bit cakier in some ways. Probably almost like it smells like cookies or something coming out of the room. And yeah, there's a door ahead of you. And what do you want to do?
Smells pretty good.
Like how you turned my bee people against me.
Feel bad about Moira. We can find her tutu. That would be worth doing.
Whose point of clarification? Whose house have we been told that this is?
So you've been told this is Kara's house. So the Chickenfoot Witch.
Should we just go in?
Eat our way in? Oh, sorry.
I am hungry.
Suppose we should knock at least.
I just slurp right underneath the door, which I do believe I have to make a roll to slurp. But
let's make a slorping roll.
It's technically called Jelly Body, so I've got a roll plus vitality. D12. Oh, it says roll but plus vitality, but is that Vim or Vigor? Or is that...
Vigor.
Okay, thanks. So that's going to be a 3 all day because I rolled a 1. So
these D12s are betraying us.
So maybe more so, I go and I'm getting ready to slurp underneath, and I just slam into the door.
One of the things that, it kind of works. So it's so 3, 4s, and 5s are failures with a plus. So you don't manage to get underneath the door. As you know, you don't manage to get through beneath the door into the room on the other side. But what I imagine is just on the far side of it, there's so much baking going on down there, and some substance that is just, it's not as bad as like salt is to slugs, but it's some substance that is just gross. You kind of you've almost got that same like taste response as if you'd like tasted earwax or something. And just kind of go in there and it's like, and there's enough of the kind of like the weird shivering and thing there to what you can almost like sense is that there's there was a padlock just kind of like hooked through on the other side of the door, and the kind of like the weird horrible shivering you're doing as you kind of like run into this taste is enough to like knock the padlock off, and then you can like hear it that kind of go like clunk clunk on the door the other side. And you do then hear because like within the room there's clearly like somebody baking, and you do hear like this like clatter of just like someone's just like put down a sheet pan, and so we're like, ooh. What are you all doing?
Peeking in a window.
So through the window, what you can see is a like quite a large sort of like, what is, and this is the point where it's good to have the creators on the stream. How would you describe wugs? So WUG for those not already knowing how they're written.
Well, they're sort of they're the cousins of boggarts and goblins, but they're sort of more brutish and large.
Top heavy, very top heavy,
right.
Large, boggart-like creatures.
Yeah. So like what you can see through this window is that just like large, strange, like just wug, but his head has been replaced by that of a pug, the small brachycephalic dog, with its like very, very sort of like bright, like weirded out looking eyes. And you sort of like see him like put the pan down, is looking up towards the door, sees that the lock's sort of like fallen off, and then go, oh no, and like running over towards the door with his like hilariously tiny legs, and again made all the better for the fact that like it doesn't seem to be able to like put his arms down directly straight underneath himself. He's like, "Oh, Crunch has been told we've got to keep the door locked." Oh, and he's scrabbling around trying to pick the actual padlock up from the floor, giving you an opportunity to act or wait.
So we'll try to open the door.
Yeah.
Nice. Whoever wants to open the door, could I get a might check from them? Because there's a chance you sort of like pull this door open that you'll be able to like knock Crunch entirely off of his feet. So I imagine this is probably going to be Galen, but obviously whoever wishes to take it can.
I could do it. Okay, that is a 7.
Ooh, okay. So with a 7, we have a success with a twist. So that, like, you will open the door like right up, and sort of like at this point, like Crunch has managed to pick up the padlock that he's got, and then the door just like smacks into him and he kind of like falls back and falls over. What would the twist be? I imagine that probably within the momentum of this as well, that Galen kind of like stumbles forwards, kind of like trips up and over, and also like lands like piled up in a heap, sort
Just
of like
right
rolling
into
over
a
next
cake.
to. Yeah, just like face full of, and like what you can see as you're kind of doing this, that there's like very, very tiny snails sort of like then just like creeping along your face, because they're as they've clearly been like worked into this cake batter, somehow managing to completely survive the baking process itself. And at this point here, Crunch is kind of like on the floor. It's like, oh, and he's like scrabbling around, manages to find like a small cake pan, and just tries to turn over and use it to kind of like hit at Galen, but doesn't quite have the range in motion because his like chest gets in the way. Could everyone give me let me double check the wording. Here we go. Yes. So a conflict begins. One of the other things, again, that's really nice about Land of Eem is that because there's not an incredible amount of like procedures that get in the way of lots of parts of the game, with the exception of during travel, here's some processes you can do. During conflict, here's some processes you can do. And within conflict, there's 4 phases within every given round of this. The first one of which is parley. So very much as a Brit, of course, I'm often likely to think about Doctor Who at inopportune moments, and about how in many situations like that, the Doctor will almost always open up with trying to talk his way through a fight. And that's essentially what we've got here. So right at the very, very beginning of this.
Very inspired by Doctor Who RPG for this.
Excellent news. Cracking stuff. So yeah, so at the very opening of this point here, we've got Galen's on the floor, Crunch is on the floor. The rest of you are kind of like stood here in the doorway. If anybody does wish to talk first, you can. And if so, does anybody want to, or do you want to let this go the way in which it might?
Here, let us help you up.
Yeah, we'll get this cleaned up right away. We're sorry. We didn't mean to make a mess of your kitchen here.
My friend can clean up the spill in a jiffy.
So this feels like it's a charm check, unless you're doing all of this specifically in order to like surprise and trick him. So whoever wishes to, let's roll a charm.
May I?
Yes, you may.
Charm is Vim, and I have a +2 to charm.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have anything that would make it better? Ben or you might.
Don't have any abilities that could help at the moment.
Sorry, I meant like maybe you know my character better than I do. Like bards just might be good at charm. Okay, I will roll for it.
Excellent, yes.
Okay, I got my second one, but at least I have a 2 to charm. So it's a 3.
Oh,
I mean,
goodness.
I will say you could have used your narrator ability, though that would not have come out probably any better.
Yeah, still a 1.
Excellent news. So overall, sorry, just a sec.
It's off camera. I could have cheated and not rolled 2 1s in a session, but
It's
Look,
more
we swear,
fun this
people,
way.
if you
It
go
is.
back Land of Eem right now, you can roll a dice and not roll a 1.
Exactly, and actually, I think that's probably one of the most important things is given the opportunity here. So
these
well,
D12s don't have any experience. They're completely
very
untrained
new
at
at this.
RPGs. They
I will
have no idea what they're doing.
I will say this is designed to happen. This is the reason why we don't use 2 to 6s. So there's not like the bell curve of always getting a 7 or whatever.
I do really like that about it, and that it means you've got the full range of outcomes much more likely, which is very fun. So a 3 is a miss with a plus. In this case being, so I'm going to say someone can step in and immediately say what my friend meant to say was, because you can clearly see that that you're almost like the offer to do things for him is kind of, I know, almost implying that he's unable to do it himself.
I'm going to step in and use Chronicler to once per session create a historical fact or a bit of ancient knowledge, and I'm going to point to the oven and say, you probably didn't know this. Very few people would, but that's a gnomish oven. If you take some of the logs out of that oven and it cools down a little bit, you'll be able to bake the greatest cakes in the world. This is really something you've got here. You should be proud of it. And gotta roll a lore check to see if that is true. All right, I rolled a 6, and I believe I'm +3, so that's a 9.
Oh, nice. So it is true, but whether or not it be something that that Crunch is likely to be respondent to, can you also give me a charm roll here?
Yes, I can.
I'm going to inspiring orders. Twice per session, I can choose one of the following. One of them is to give an ally +2 to check before rolling.
Ooh.
So I'm going to say, talk to him like a dog. But I have to make a roll. And I do it. I got a 6.
Nice.
Exactly.
What's the
2 out of 3 good boys agree that this oven is for you.
So you have +2 to that. I don't know what your skill is.
I know what I expected. Talk to him like a dog.
Hey, I rolled a 12. So that's a 14. I pat him on the head as I do it.
anything kind of like sits up, and almost like one thing you notice is that although he's clearly like this like big gangly wug, like he certainly seems to be like moving his limbs in the way in which you'd expect a much smaller thing. Like this probably almost like Dr. Moreau style was a dog and is now a wug, rather than like almost the other way around where you'd expect, oh, someone had their head changed into something else. This isn't quite Midsummer Night's Dream territory, but he's like so happily responded to that, and he's like, "Whoa, whoa, I'm a good boy. I know how maths works. Yeah, whoa, oh wow, oh thanks." And he kind of like sits up and plunges his hands directly into the hot fire and kind of like takes it out and like, "Woof, woof, woof," and like throws some of the actual like bits of fire into there's just a big like a big vat of like cake batter that kind of like immediately extinguishes the flames as it kind of like throws it in. And then he just like sits down, crosses his legs, kind of like bounces slightly and looks at you and it's like, "Oh, thank you very much." Oh.
The bestest boy, the goodest boy.
Oh. And you can see that there are a load of like cookbooks on the side. You can also see on the edges of the walls as well that not just cookbooks. There's a load of skulls that have kind of like just been like nailed up onto the wall. One of the skulls, which is actually like wearing a helmet with like a big feathery plume. One of which is actually like it initially looks like it's still got an eye in there, and then you realise it's just another one of those snails that's sort of like just moving around the orbit. What you can go for it.
That skull, that looks like that could be a knight's skull.
Well, it does look like that, doesn't it? Yeah. Ooh.
Where did you find it?
Oh, someone put it up on the wall. Don't know. Here when I moved in.
So it's been here a long time. You didn't fetch it from somewhere.
Not the skull. I did fetch the thigh bone though.
Good boy.
Buried it in the yard.
No, where is your how do I put this? Owner, I guess, or
Oh, Cara. She's through in there. I'm not allowed to go in there. She says that I'm not allowed to go in there because of her couch. It's the Chamber of Curses, they call it. Yeah.
Chamber of Curses, you say?
Like so even though you can see there's a plaque above the door. She had that made special, and you can see this like tiny little like it's like little pewter plaque with like Chamber of Curses that's sort of been like hammered into it.
Well,
since we're all friends now, maybe you could introduce us.
Oh, I'm supposed to be doing this cooking, but if I did get told what the special knock was if I needed to make her aware. You knock on the door like this. If you give the special knock, she knows it's okay to come and to open the door. Yeah, you just go knock on the door, and then
Well, I'm great at rhythm, so I've got that memorized already.
Shall we knock?
I'll be happy to knock.
I'm going to need you to knock. Excellent, yes. And what you can like from the room beyond, and it's almost like again you've got this quite significant smell of just like the baking in here and the kind of like the raw flour smell just kind of picking it, and just through the end of it you kind of almost like picking up those same sort of notes as you did in the bog again on the far end. And there's kind of like more of these sort of things, and as you knock on the door, hello, John. As you knock on the door, you then see, like barely a few moments later, the handle turns, and then the door opens up, and you just like hit with more of this just like really like musty smell. Like it smells like somebody has kept a library underwater, and then the water's kind of gone a bit stagnant. But it smells really dry, but also like really quite like just a bit gross. This door opens up and just sits there. Initially, especially because you've just been talking to Crunch, who's pretty big. You like immediately look through and then look down at about like 3 or 4 foot tall, kind of about like the length of maybe 4 stoats. just stood there is this like really wrinkly, like she's got like proper mean looking. Like she doesn't actually have any eyebrows. She's got none, but there are sort of like a little bit drawn on almost. And she is wearing a kind of like a purple gnome's hat, just kind of at a jaunty angle. One of the things, like, she's got like big wide bogger ears, and it's just quite tricky for the hat to sort of stay in the right place. She is wearing a tutu, and out from underneath that you can just see these like vast chicken legs. She just kind of stood there and she just opens the door and said, "What do you want? Oh, you're not Crunch. Why are you here?"
We're here to see if there's anything we can do to get you to stop cursing people.
Why would I want to do that? It's one of the most enjoyable things to do.
I don't think that's true.
Anyway, you've come to my house and told me I shouldn't curse people here.
That's right.
Like, maybe I'm allowed to curse people. Like, sometimes bad luck happens.
I would love to hear a story about your best curse.
Oh. What do you mean, best curse?
Oh, well, you said you love to curse people, right? Well, I love to write songs. So if you wanted to tell me an awesome story about one of the best times you ever cursed somebody and how that curse went, I would love to write a song about it.
Ooh. So, did you know that, like, the bee folk, that they make wonderful honey, incredible stuff, absolutely brilliant. And the way they make it, they chew things up. They go and find some flowers, they chew them up, and scoff them all down. Huge, vast amounts of flowers, like roses and lavenders and roses again, and they chew them all up, and then they go, and they vomit up this honey. It's wonderful. Now, I knew someone who spent 6 years living with the bee folk because he really loved the taste of honey. And then I made it taste weird to him, so I cursed him. So that instead, because of course it's just vomit, it's flower vomit. So I made it taste like vomit to him.
Oh.
It was hilarious.
That's brilliant.
God. Yes,
Wow.
yeah. He soon left.
While the story is being told, can I scan the room to see if I can see the wand?
So on the, like, there's a load of, like, there are a load of books in the room, and they're all kind of like pinned open and like tacked to the wall in different places. But there is also a kind of a large table with like a load of like apothecary stuff on it. Like, quite poorly organized in there, but just kind of like stuck through is the wand of decursification. Most of which you can sort of tell because it kind of looks like a long sort of like twisted thing, which at the end has got something that looks a little bit like a horseshoe magnet, which is then been like painted green. It's currently, it's not necessarily like underneath a big pile of stuff, but it is certainly just like you couldn't just come over and just pick it up without disturbing at least a few things in the area.
Okay.
I've got a metal detector out, and I'm scanning every other part of the room, and I've just missed it. Just FYI. Same thing, but I haven't found it.
And yeah, one thing you notice is she's like explaining this story to Inoki is like she's like deeply caught up in just this idea of really like wanting to be heard and just kind of like explaining this story along to the point where like the rest of you just like walking along in the background, kind of like checking out the room, and she's barely even noticing.
I'm gonna roll to have the boggles go like all like kind of fall out and go like get into like a semicircle right in front of her, just like. And I rolled a 12 on that one to inspire them. That's minus one, so it's only an 11, but it did work.
I don't know if we mentioned, but the Dungeoneer has a crew of little boggles.
We didn't. What are Buggles like?
They're little goblinoids.
Okay. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I open up my little satchel and my boggles all like fold out and like come up and they just like in rapture just listen to these curses. I'm a little worried about the influence it's going to have on them later, but for right now, it's fine.
Yeah, so we're just kind of like sit there, like hands, like hands, kind of like holding up their like amazed expressions. They just kind of watch this. A certain amount of it isn't necessarily just the content, although like the gross out descriptions of like the taste of vomit definitely is kind of like making at least a few of them chuckle. But there really is a whole sense of like this is a story, and also just the fact that like Enoki has like promised to turn it into a song has just like really enraptured. Like they're kind of like they're watching it every now and then, like look to their fellow boggles to kind of like, it's like you watching this.
One of them is taking
to
various notes on a little notepad.
And like one of them looks to Enoki and is like, and like this is the most excited they've been for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. Like they're well into this. And yeah, what's Enoki's reaction to having heard the story of the man who lived with the beakin?
Well, I think I've got it. Gather round now and hear a good verse. 'Twas a witch once who loved a good curse. 'Twas a man who loved honey, and she made it taste funny, or actually quite a bit worse.
All the boggles are like
lovely.
She's like so excited about this, and
I think I do have a skill for rhyming. Let me look at that.
You the character or you the player?
In character. Once per oh no, that's narrator. Invigorate the entire party. Invigorating music. Twice per session out of conflict. Invigorate anyone for 1d6 courage. Never mind. Tell me.
I mean, I guess you could, if you wanted to kind of have that song mean something, you could direct the action in a certain way.
I'll let you take the narration and we'll see where we go with that.
Yeah. So one of the things that you notice, especially when she's like very happy with this song that you've sung for her, and like in a real heart to heart explains that, well, it's just I've finally found something I'm good at, and everybody knows that it's what I'm good at, and I always wanted to be a dancer, you see, and I was never very good. I kind of had 2 left feet, and that's even before these days. But no, everyone else was better, and everybody else was always being spoken of for this, and I made it easier for myself by making it worse for them. But I do love dancing, and I suppose, do you think that maybe it would be okay if I kind of like reversed all of these curses? And do you think maybe I could have a second time, maybe as dancer, as part of your troupe? You've got a very good minstrel here.
While you do.
Wait, did we have a troupe? Is this a troupe?
Certainly look like a troupe. You've got a fiddler there.
Like a band? I didn't grasp that, but if we are, I'm into it.
I don't need you all to play. If someone's going to be playing music regularly, and if you don't already have a dancer, she kind of looks over at Squeegee, like
Squeegee's
a little afraid.
Squeegee jiggles in a way that could be elegant if it was intentional.
she's just like, well, I mean, if you'd have me, I suppose I could easily undo those curses. There's a wand there. It's run out of charges. I think it needs to wake up with its owner and then gets back to normal. But I turned her into a stoat and she ran away.
And you're wearing her hat.
I suppose I should give the hat back as well, shouldn't I?
We're also wearing a tutu, I believe, that might belong
yes,
to someone else.
Yes, this is Moira's tutu, isn't it? Yes. Tell you what, I'll just go and change, and she wanders over to the the alchemical table, picks up a couple of they're kind of jars, but also like baubles at the same point. Swaps a couple of them around and goes, excellent. Smashes them together, and there's this huge puff of purple smoke. And as the smoke clears, she's then kind of stood there wearing this leotard, and you can see her chicken legs kind of sticking out the bottom of them. She's still wearing the hat, but over one arm she's kind of got folded and looks like it's been laundered as well. The tutu just kind of stood there. It's like, well, I suppose we probably ought to give this back to Moira. And if you don't mind me joining you when we head back to see the gnome, or the stoat now, then I can give her back the hat, and perhaps even if we don't have an audience, we could do a little song around the campfire at night, and maybe I could dance and we could sing, and wouldn't that be lovely?
I have one more question.
Oh, yes, go ahead.
It's about the skull in your living room. It reminds me of a knight, and I happen to have seen a no-headed skeleton wandering about.
Oh, was that in the hollow hole? Yes. Yes, that was Sir Galladay who tried to seek vengeance on the fact that Moira died. I didn't mean for her to die at all. That was an accident.
Revenge is a noble purpose.
Yeah. I mean, you can even see, I think, from the strength of his brow on the very skull itself. I do reckon he'd be happy
the
to.
Mark of heroism. Do you think that he would be happy to find his head again, or would that make him?
That would certainly cheer him up. He's been pitching around there in the hole for goodness knows, almost 5 days now. And
maybe, I know, we could even make it look like he found it himself.
Oh, that would be wonderful. What a fantastic thing. And I think let's montage at this point here almost, where we've got a few different things are happening, some of the curses that Kara has put into place are quite straightforward to sort of to undo. Some of them require a little bit more extreme magic, but as part of this whole thing, kind of come back and return the tutu to Moira, who kind of clutches it hard, close to herself, kind of through herself again at this point. It's thank you, as then both the tutu and the ghost just kind of just fade out of existence. At the same point, kind of over in the background, Sir Galladay kind of trips over his own head, stumbles around, picks it up thinking it's his sword, and kind of realizes, feels around the front of it, and then he puts the head on. It's the wrong way around, but it's kind of stood there and as a large troop of you, then heading back towards Wally's Waffles and Wargs, where you've got in tow, you've also got Kara, the chicken-footed witch, and Sir Galladay kind of wandering along as well. His head's still the wrong way round, but he's also just turned his feet round as well, so at least he's walking in the direction that he wants to. And yeah, in a great like show of enjoyment, and one the wand is given back and the hat is given back to the stoat that is El Dorothy Sandwich. And over the next few days, her own like curse has been dropped, and luckily it's just before the troll had to leave, so he finally realizes that actually no, his friend was here all along. And everybody has a wonderful feast of genuinely the biggest pancakes anybody has ever seen. Some of them kind of like set through with this like Harrispex jam, some of it kind of covered over with syrup. And I would like one epilogue from each of you to see what we see of, and again, it could be like in future adventures where we're like still within the same sort of like crew and troop, or it could be like things you're doing like individually and independently. We'll go back in the order that we started. So we'll go James, then go Ben, we'll then go Parrish, we'll then go Tony. So that's a little almost like post-credit scene.
Yeah.
What do we see of Warbly in the near future?
Warbly gets with the Chickenfoot Witch and tells her a secret. He says, I actually know a spectacular dance that's been passed down through my family, and I'd be happy to teach you all the steps. And then I'll use my magic feat ability, which once per session perform a spectacular acrobatic feat beyond a normal creature's capabilities. To just
Excellent.
have the best dance she's ever seen be taught to her.
Oh, that's perfect. What do we see of Galen post credits?
He says, well, you'll be dancing all the way to prison. And in come the local constables, the bulwarks.
Oh no!
Who handcuff Chara, and Galen says, I mean, you killed the guy. I mean,
She doesn't even care. She's so happy dancing. They just clap her in irons, and she dances all the way to jail.
Luckily, it's a dance that doesn't really require much in the way of arm movement. Excellent stuff. What about Inoki?
Well, I've composed a ballad about our travels today, and it goes, though we may go on our separate paths, today we've all learned some maths. I had lots of fun, though I only rolled ones, and finally had a good bath.
Spectacular!
Wonderful.
And finally, what do we see of Squeegee?
We zoom out. We see like somebody sketching, like in a book, and it's Squeegee in a powdered wig and barrister robes at the Chicken Witch's trial. I've become their defense lawyer, and you can it's like there's just music swelling in the background. You can't tell what I'm saying, but from the picture, they've captured like the weeping of the jury and the judge, who are obviously being swayed by my deep eloquence in this moment.
Excellent stuff. And this, friends and enemies, has been the Land of Eem. So thank you all very much.
Awesome. We are going to do our reaction roll. Reaction roll is a live stream inside of a live stream. It's our chance to sit down with the creator of a game that we just played and talk to them about playing that game today. We're sitting down with Ben and James talking about the Land of Eem. We are live on the floor, the digital floor of Exalted Funeral Con, who is the publisher partnering with y'all to help bring this game to life. We just finished playing the game, and now we're going to talk about it a little bit. Ben, James, for people who might not be familiar with y'all, why don't you tell them a little about who you are, what y'all do, and tell us a little bit about the Land of Eem.
Yeah, James and I have been friends since second grade. We've always made stuff together. We are the authors of a graphic novel series, Rickety Stitch and the Gelatinous Goo, and a middle grade series called Dungeoneer Adventures, and they both take place in the Land of Eem. So we've been working on this world since college, pretty much, and we decided to make a game. we've dabbled in game design for years. This is our first big published thing, and yeah, we wanted to make a game that allows players to be creative, and I think see that with the dice mechanics certainly, but most of the abilities are centered around being creative, and we're also part of what we're doing is a huge sandbox setting. And so this adventure takes place in the Mucklands sandbox. James, you want to jump in?
Yeah. I'll talk about the sandbox specifically because I think it really the way we made it was so that it would be a tool to spark that creativity that Ben was talking about. Ben and I, the way we play is we like to get into sticky situations and then creatively get out of them with all kinds of wacky, fun, inventive tasks to eliminate conflicts or to change conflicts and kind of roll with what happens. And so when we created the Land of Eem and the Muckland Realm sandbox, we wanted the sandbox to be filled with a lot of tools so that GMs could jump into a conflict, jump into a character's motivations, not even really need to specifically follow exactly what's happening in that particular story, but to use it to get ideas about how things can go sideways, but in a really fun way.
Awesome. I love it. I had a blast playing it. Let's hear from our other players. Parrish, this was your first time getting to play Land of Eem. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what it was like to sit down and play?
Yeah, this was awesome. If this had existed 13 years ago, I never would have made my game because it's totally a great experience for new players and young players. But we had all adults today, and we still had a fantastic time. I really liked the resolution mechanic. It's clean and fast and played great, and I loved the with a twist or with a plus is sort of like yes and so it just really facilitated improv really well throughout.
Awesome. Thanks.
Do you have any questions that you want to ask James or Ben?
I do have a couple.
Yeah.
What happens when you get 0 courage?
Well, the first time that happens in a session, you are considered defeated and kind of taken out of things for a couple rounds. And then you kind of come back and you get to roll a certain amount of courage, a d6 plus your level. So it's pretty forgiving in that way. You could end up wounded from that. And then the second time that happens in a session, there is the threat of actually dying. But then you also have another roll to see if that actually happens.
What about is the threat of TPK real, or what happens during a TPK narratively?
We have never had a TPK in our playtest yet. There have been deaths, and we want that. Even though it's Muppets, or like
there's still a lot of risk in certain situations. And Sean really eloquently put it when he was talking about the courage and dread during our session as being a flexible way to handle defeat in any number of ways you want to handle it. Yeah. So if you are defeated jumping across lily pads, you may find yourself drowning and your buddies have to help you. Or if you are in a situation where you are facing, you're a bunch of Muppets facing a lich or something that's extremely dangerous and terrifying, the risk of physical harm would make more sense, and you would be able to play it that way. So ultimately, it's designed so that you can pursue it any way that you'd like to, or any way that the group feels it best fits their play style and their mood. And that's also why we have something called adventure tones, where you can play a hijinks adventure, which is a lot like the Chickenfoot Witch, or you can play Daring Do, which has got a little bit of a Princess Bride vibe to it. or Doom and Gloom, which you can also play in the Land of Eem, which would be a little bit more like the Dark Crystal, maybe, or even Conan the Barbarian, which sounds hilarious coming out of my mouth when looking at like the art assets and just like what Land of Eem is. But Land of Eem was inspired by our book series, and in our book series there is a tonal shift between goofy Rickety Stitch, the skeleton bard. But Rickety Stitch is a skeleton bard and has a past that's linked to what it would be to be resurrected as a skeleton with amnesia. Kind of a dark vibe to that. But
yeah, for my own personal enjoyment playing this game, I really do like that juxtaposition of the silly characters facing like really dire situations.
Right.
It's kind of fun. I mean, you don't always have to do that, but
yeah, I think that's what makes things like The Hobbit or The Lord of the Rings have such an interesting weight, is that you've got these little Hobbit guys that are doing their best, but there's also a volcano that a ring has to be tossed into.
Love it. Awesome. Let's hear a little bit from Sean F. Smith, who GM. Sean, what was it like to run Land of Eem?
It was really very pleasant too, actually. One of the things that's... because it's interesting running, so like previous games that I've run for creators on like +1 EXP, almost all of the other things have been like either a specific adventure or a specific like setting framework. But actually, I think this is the first time that I've specifically run somebody else's rule set for those people, which is, I mean, it's one of those tricky things. It's like I'm showing this off to the world, and I'm doing it in front of the people who are like, "Oh, that's not how it goes." And like, you'd have to be very good at acting to hide that. One thing I think that's really pleasant about this is how, one, it's very, very like open-ended in terms of the actual like opportunities for play. There's a lot of games that have similar levels of like degrees of success where you're going to like achieve a certain amount, but there'll be additional complications. Loads of those can be almost quite highly like proceduralized, where there's a very specific, if you roll this, then this is the next step, or this is the next step. Whereas actually there's quite a lot here that's pinned down almost on the very like wording of the title. So it's like success with a twist, or failure with a plus, rather than it being something just like partial success. And I think having that slight difference in terms of like how it's phrased just meant that it was so much simpler to keep within that sort of today it felt running it almost like it was kind of like storybook tone. I was definitely imagining it in my head as a mix between like almost like a made for TV film that you're sort of like, you're watching this on a Saturday and it kind of plays out this way.
Yeah. And
that was really quite fun. And it's a brilliant world. And I wasn't aware of it like until again, the thing I really like at the end of the like the quick start itself, where we've got the pictures of, here are the books you can go and read if you want to see a graphic novel or want to read some stuff. And I hope it's relatively easy to pick up in Britain, because it's probably not, and instead I'll have to find Americans to send it to me. But there's something I really like about. So I used to be a secondary school teacher, or a high school teacher, and there's sometimes that really weird mix between like high adventure and also like pure whimsy that you can get in certain types of like, especially like middle readers fantasy books. That's just really quite fun to play in because of how it invites everybody to kind of like imagine. And it genuinely felt like, because it can be really tricky with a lot of like sing-song names, that it can feel almost like much is surface, but where there's such like a long history of, this is the world we've been living in for half of our lives, sort of thing. You can feel that in actually the way in which the game's set out. I was tempted to ask a question specifically about the world, but actually I'm more interested in like having both of you together. How do you find in general the like collaboration and like working in partnership? And did you find that it was very different when you were doing like graphic novels, when you were doing like straight up fiction, when you were doing games? What's that whole process like? And that's really what I want to know.
It's a good question.
Yeah, I think it is different, our working process and relationship with a game. Like, I feel like we come together and talk about a lot of stuff, but we also kind of go off and do things separately more. Whereas with our books, we're especially graphic novels, we're writing that together at the same time on a Google Doc. With our new chapter book, we're coming together, writing the plot together, like making a long outline, but then we write chapters. We alternate writing chapters, and then like come together and edit them. With the game, I feel like I think James took more of the lead on the sandbox, and I took more lead on the core system
and mechanics.
Yeah, but there's like overlap with everything.
I love it.
Cracking stuff, fantastic.
Well, let's. I'm going to have a question in a minute, but my question is going to require potentially participation from an audience member. So, JP, if you will make your way up to the that other orange spot in the front of the room, if you are still here with us, I'm going to ask you a question in a second, or come up here on stage with us, whichever one you want to do, whatever's easiest. But yeah, stand in either spot. JP, we're live on the floor here at Exalted Funeral Con. JP's in the audience. I had a great time. I had a blast playing. I've been looking forward to it. I was super excited when I saw I had seen the ads for it, didn't realize Exalted Funeral was attached to it. Always love when we get a chance to see Exalted Funeral do something cool, and I love that that's who y'all ended up partnering with and that we could make this happen during the convention. I know right now y'all are in the middle of working toward the stream that we haven't been able to have JP on until right now for anything. So since you're in the stretch goals, JP, why don't you tell people who you are, what you do, but tell us a little bit about what the stretch goal is you're going to be working on for Land of Eem if it gets unlocked.
Yeah, my name's JP Couvert. Excuse me. I was not expecting to be called up like this.
I know. Isn't that great? I could have easily private messaged you and said, JP, I'm going to ask you to come up in a second. I didn't. And so I'm really
the book, and I've loved their stuff, so I said yes.
Awesome. I don't know if it's under NDA. I don't know if you're allowed to talk. Do we get any insight into the adventure? A name? Are you allowed to say anything?
That's up to them.
I mean, yeah, you're free to share.
I don't see why not. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll talk about one of the ideas. So one idea is I should have pulled it up, but there's an area of the Mucklands that is like Pirate Islands kind of feel.
Scalawag Strand,
yes. And so the idea for this adventure is the players find out about 2 wrecked pirate ships, and the idea is they can go out and get 2 sets of stolen treasure instead of just one. And then there's a bunch of things kind of standing in the way of getting those treasures, including a giant kraken creature, and there's ghosts and more skeletons and a bunch of fun stuff.
Awesome. I love it.
Excited for it.
I'm super excited about it. That's awesome. That's so cool. Like for me, as somebody who's followed your work, has seen some of the different zine stuff you put out, I was again very excited to see your name kind of attached to this. Also, too, it's just one of the stretch goals, and again, having you in the room here today was just really cool. So we couldn't pass up the opportunity to have you come up and chat about it a little bit.
It was very cool to see the game played, and it's going to be very helpful for me writing this adventure.
Awesome. Do you have any questions that you want to ask, having seen it run? I was going to ask about the collaboration part, because I've mostly worked by myself, and I find it very interesting that you two do everything together. I think that's very cool. I guess I'm sort of interested. I've gotten to see a lot of the artwork and stuff behind the scenes.
So I'm kind of interested in like how it is getting other people to contribute to your world and kind of help bring life to it, especially with a bunch of the amazing illustrations and
Yeah.
the book design. Like all of it's really awesome.
Yeah, it's been a huge, like, that's probably like, it's really easy to collaborate with James. Like, we've known each other for so long, we're on the same wavelength. So this
Sure.
just hiring various artists and working with other writers has been a very new experience, and it's been fun. But
It's been a great experience, I'd
it's
say.
a lot of art directing, you know, because we have to make sure that stuff looks like the books, you know, and like
Feels like the world and has all of
Right.
it's got to feel Land of Eem lived in, if that makes sense.
yeah. So I'm usually doing sketches and things for people, and yeah, like for all the creatures, I'll draw what it is, and Sean Kiernan will make it awesomer.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But yeah, it starts with like my own designs that I share with him, and I'm also doing a lot of them too. So and then, you know, with something like the awesome Justin Gerard cover, I drew those characters that we were all
We
playing.
just
Actually.
played them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he went and made an awesome thing. Like the dragon was, I think that's like his world, like his design, pretty much.
You guys need a
Making it look
dragon.
awesome like that. But all the other stuff is like based on my designs and stuff. That's kind of how we've been working with the art.
Yeah, very cool.
Awesome. So I like I said, the mix of mechanics, all the other different pieces, there is actually a lot of complexity that goes into it as far as the way things mix, but it's very easy to grab onto. None of the resolution mechanics are complicated. It's very much one simple roll. And there's a ton to give, like relational realities and how people interact with. Like my character was negging Parrish's character the entire time because I only think her songs are good sometimes. And when it was about me, that was pretty okay. And so no, I love I think somebody stepping into playing an RPG for the first time at any age, all the different things you're able to give them on the sheet in very short form. Really help them understand the dynamics of the party. Obviously, all those things could be customized, talked through, all the things you would want in a game. It's just a really cool thing to see, and we love it whenever people are taking things that they're passionate about and moving it over. Right now, y'all are well underway to funding, but obviously there's a bunch of really other great things that people can help unlock as we go. While we've been on here, you guys just hit 1,500 backers, so congratulations! You're right under $150,000. Very, very excited to see how well it's doing. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I know that Parrish had mentioned they were a day one backer, which means they got all the cool extra shirt and patch and other stuff like that. But you can add those on now still. And y'all are using Backer Kit, which is great. Always love seeing a new crowdfunding platform people are using, and are really excited that y'all were on there. I want to ask you guys though, have y'all had a chance to really sit down and just play your game while somebody else who you didn't know before has run it? Was this the first time? Have you gotten to do this a couple times yet? And what was it like to play your own game?
This is the first time I think that we've played
with
someone we didn't know.
Yeah, and the first time we played with someone else GMing it, which was something we really wanted to do. We wanted to see how it would all pan out with someone jumping into the world, and Sean did an amazing job.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It's just fantastic. And it's honestly, it was a great experience to kind of sit back a little bit and see it unfold for other people and how other people used it. We play every week on our own stream because we love Land of Eem. We made it because it's exactly what we want to play. But it was great to see it in somebody else's hands and for Sean to do such a spectacular job.
Awesome.
Yeah, I played it with another group with someone GMing, but never with someone that I didn't really know GMing. So I think you did an awesome job and captured the feel really well and the tone.
Awesome. Any questions y'all have for us that you want to ask us?
I don't know if I have questions, but I just thought it was super fun, and thank you to everyone who played.
It's
And
more of a statement than a question. We know we're
Yeah,
at a convention now.
My impulse is to thank you all for a spectacular session and for playing in our world and adopting it for just a short amount of time. And everybody was so fun and creative and cool. It was a great time.
yeah, Parrish's songs were awesome.
Oh my
Spectacular. Spectacular.
So good.
Pro.
And so, no, I love it. It's so good. If people haven't had a chance to go check it yet, please do as soon as you're able to. Like I said, you can go either to landofeem.com or you can go to ttrpg.link /Land of Eem game. That URL right in the bottom corner will take you right to the backer kit page and let you back right away. Check out all the good stuff. We are super excited to keep on going here at EFCon. We've got one more stream tonight before, again, I collapse into a puddle of gelatinous goo for real. I'm gonna lay back with a Faygo soda, a lemon lime flavor, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. I'm so thankful for you all coming out. We don't have a good way to close streams, and at this point, we're never gonna come up with one. So until next time, we're just gonna wave at the camera until I take us offline. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming. Go check out Land
everybody.
of Eem.